The story opens on a fiery battlefield. The sky seemed to be collapsing onto the ground. Here, the great demon king of the world was in the middle of the final great war. Facing him was the hero's party. Leading them was the hero, Yun Sok. The two of them charged at each other, holding nothing back. Behind them, the hero's comrades could only stand still to save their own lives. They were too exhausted. Facing the enemy's cannon-like firepower, the hero still held tightly to the spear in his hand. The hero wanted to end the war, so he unleashed an attack called Paradoxical Flame. After that, he gathered momentum. Approaching the demon king, the two of them engaged in close combat once again. At a glance, it was clear the Demon King had overwhelming physical strength. He continuously neutralized the hero's attacks. He even mocked that the previous attack didn't even scratch him. But the Demon King didn't know that the Demon King's crown had fallen off. His entire body was being burned by a blazing red flame. The hero stood there and watched. The Demon King still believed that no one in this world could stand against him. Unfortunately, our hero was someone from another world. The Demon King smelled death clinging to him. He asked the hero if he was being erased. It was clear he could no longer recover. This black flame was called the Paradox Flame by the hero. Unlike normal fire, it used one's ego, reason, and memories as fuel. Therefore, the Demon King could never be reborn. The flame would burn away even his soul and memories. Knowing his enemy wasn't lying, the Demon King then declared that even if the hero killed him, his companions wouldn't leave him alone. Yun Sok already knew that. Meanwhile, the saintess behind him told the hero not to believe the monster's words. But her scheme had long been known to the hero. She constantly tried to seduce him, while inwardly seeing him only as a heretic who deserved to die. The hero wouldn't hesitate to attack her if he were to be purged. Clearly, the saintess had nothing to argue. The other two guys were the same. This knight had been ordered to kill the hero after the mission to defeat the Demon King was completed. As for the old mage, he hated the hero because Yun Sok had opposed the slave system. All of this had been known to the hero for 5 years. The Demon King didn't understand why, with such power, the hero didn't just destroy this damn world. It was simple. He wanted to go home. Because 20 years ago, he was a citizen of Earth, transported to this place by some goddess to become a hero. For the next 20 years, the hero fought against monsters. During one mission, he saved a young boy, but the two gatekeepers refused to treat the boy, fearing it would be a waste of medicine. In this place, even with just a small wound, instead of treating it, they would just sever that body part, simply because the healers had been sent to the battlefield. The priests were adamant that he couldn't keep the child because it had been captured by a monster. They wanted to take the child for purification, just like those people being burned alive. He realized that in this other world, there was no concept of human rights, and the humanity here was fundamentally disgusting. And so, after completing his mission, the hero only wanted to go home. A light suddenly flashed in the clouds. It grew brighter and brighter. The goddess's voice rang out, saying the hero had suffered enough. Yun Sok immediately reminded the goddess that everything, from his soul to his experience and memories, must be preserved, and that he must be returned to Earth. Upon hearing this, the goddess's smile instantly vanished. She asked if the hero didn't like this place, even though by now he had become a force that could even threaten her. The hero's mind was made up, so the goddess couldn't say anything more. A powerful golden beam of light shone down on the hero. The goddess said she would give Yun Sok a new body on Earth. The hero's entire body dissolved. Finally, he disappeared along with that trail of light. Afterward, Yun Sok found himself on Earth in the body of a strange young man. This young man's name was Chan Sok. The hero thought it was much better to never have to see the corruption of that other world again. He had to get used to the new face, the old yet unfamiliar place. He was fascinated by basic things like clean water from the tap, fire from the stove, and many other things. It was the food. How long had it been since he had eaten this fried chicken? It could only be described as insanely delicious. It brought him to tears. Finally, he could live a normal life. But the hero didn't know that at this very moment, a red pillar of light was appearing outside, growing larger and larger. The shower is turned on. The hot water flows down the hero's body. Not only that, but there's also an air conditioner. The sky is clear, and Chan Sok is still excited about this Earth. He was about to play a game when a monstrous face appeared behind the glass. Chan Sok is startled and falls over. The residential area's public announcement speaker blares. It announces that an erosion rift has appeared in the apartment complex, but he doesn't understand a thing. The manager is asking residents to quickly evacuate to the shelter. Soon after, the demons appeared in droves, clinging to the glass wall like lizards. They used their claws to crack the glass. Then they all rushed in like a waterfall. Luckily, our hero has extraordinary agility. He quickly dodged the stream of monsters, still wondering what these demonic creatures were. He hides behind the window, waiting for the monsters to pass before climbing up. Just as he breathes a sigh of relief, he sees a wandering child. It seems the boy is hunting monsters. He asks him which way the monsters went. The boy wants to kill them. Chan-sok can't believe it. This kid was only about 13 years old, yet he had such guts, so the hero had no choice but to follow and keep an eye on him. Taking the opportunity, the hero asked. He asked if that worn-out crack was the place where the monsters had appeared. The boy confirmed it was, adding that no one knew where or when these monsters would show up. Damn it, he had just escaped from hell, and now Earth was turning into another hellhole. That goddess was a real bitch. The boy was surprised that Chan-sok didn't even know such basic information. He could only say that he had lived in the US for a while. This made it even harder for the boy to believe, as it was difficult for people from the US to travel to Korea. The boy also mentioned that his favorite hunter was Lee Se-yoon, ranked 10th globally, and that her weapon of choice was a greatsword, and she was currently in Incheon, confronting a large monster. The more Chan-sok thought about it, the more he felt that Earth was becoming just like the other world. But at that moment, the hero noticed something. He immediately covered the boy's mouth. It turned out that behind them, the monsters had started to gather. There were about 6 of them. Fortunately, Chan-sok's current body was decent, with slightly above average strength, which would be useful for facing multiple opponents at once. As for this kid, he couldn't just leave him behind, but he had no weapon, and Chan-sok was at a loss. He suddenly noticed a bright blue glow in the air. This was probably mana, because he had seen it before in the other world. At this moment, a monster realizes something. It whips around. The hero tries to concentrate the mana in the air. Once again, he wants to cast the paradoxical flame, even though its destructive power wouldn't be as strong as before. In the blink of an eye, a sea of black flames crashes down on the monsters, burning them to ashes. The kid cheers because the move was so cool. Here they call it a unique skill. Then, the same kid quickly rushes forward, wanting to collect proof of the monster kill, just as the Hunters Guild's YouTube channel instructed. However, the flame won't extinguish until the target is completely eliminated. Chan-sok shouts, warning the kid not to get close. Immediately, the surviving monster lunges forward. The kid almost fainted from fear. Fortunately, Chan-sok rushed in just in time. He also told the boy not to watch that so-called YouTube. Then he asks to borrow the kid's stick. Immediately, the remaining monsters rush in to surround them. The hero's eyes gleam. 3 strikes are unleashed instinctively. 3 monsters are sliced in half. It all happened in the blink of an eye. The kid is dumbfounded watching this scene. He assumes that Chan-sok is a hunter hiding his identity. As for Chan-sok, he was furious. The reason he returned to Earth was to rest, but who would have thought it would turn out like this? Then, the 2 of them went to the shelter. Seong's mother immediately called the boy's name. She continuously thanked Chan-sok for bringing the boy back. The hero also took the opportunity to assess the woman's outfit. She was a wealthy woman, and that kid Seong was a rich kid. Suddenly the ground trembled. A giant arm punched through the stone wall. It was another monster that had broken through the wall and charged in, with a face that couldn't be more ferocious. The crowd started to run in chaos. Only Chan-sok stood there. Seong, with his 10+ years of life experience, decided to ask Chan-sok to run away this time, but our hero was still pissed off. His retirement plan was officially ruined. Clearly, this wish wasn't too much to ask for. He turned and called Seong a brat, and told the rich kid to try and enjoy this life instead of becoming a hunter. But the reason the boy wanted to fight wasn't to be a hero, but because his father had been killed by the monsters. Nowhere was safe. Seong said that even though he wasn't as strong as Chan, he would still fight to become the strongest hunter, and save this world. It sounded crazy, but the hero liked his spirit and encouraged the kid, saying he would become a great hunter. But he hadn't saved the world yet. The mother urged her son to leave quickly, while the boy wanted to stay and say more. And when Seong turned around, the monster had been taken down by Chan. The hero declared that he would be the one to save this world, because this job, he had done it before. The next day, although he had promised that kid he would save the world, but our hero did nothing at all, playing games. This victory is too easy. Chan didn't even feel ashamed about it. Back then, he was just saying it for fun. Living in the game world is still the best. Besides, this world already has hunters saving it, doesn't it? Chan checked his account, wanting to order some more food. Unfortunately, the owner of this body was just a recently unemployed delivery man, and the account was already empty. Left with no other choice, Chan would have to find a job. But with the instability caused by monsters, many companies were laying off employees en masse, making the chances of finding a job even more difficult. Suddenly, he saw a hunter recruitment notice. Thinking about it, this was the only job he had experience in. At a hunter selection event, people were talking amongst themselves. saying that one just needed to show a unique skill to be selected. In this guy's eyes, those ordinary young people were just like a bunch of insignificant side characters. Then, the crowd quickly erupted, because of the appearance of Lee Se-eun, a world-class hunter and a member of the Janabai Guild. It seemed she had finished her mission in Cherwon early, and came here to supervise the recruitment process. In her hand was the profile of a candidate with electricity-based abilities. Se-eun immediately found it useful, thinking the girl could charge their equipment when needed. The person next to her mentioned that the girl in the profile was quite skilled, but Se-eun wasn't very convinced. The fool on the left suddenly startled everyone, declaring that fighting in erosion rifts was real combat, and that a student's academy record meant nothing if it wasn't backed by real combat results, which pleased Se-eun, and she rewarded him with a candy. That was indeed true, and the girl needed much more practice in a real combat environment. The female hunter and her colleagues would observe the evaluation process from the stands. Through one-on-one battles, they would find promising candidates for their guild. Now the host turned his attention to a participant, one who was not from a hunter academy. This was unprecedented, and that person was none other than Chan Sok. Damn it, he still wasn't used to this name. Their weapons were provided by the competition, and inflicting fatal injuries on opponents was forbidden. Chan's face was expressionless. The other guy, however, clicked his tongue, seeing that his opponent was just a newbie. Both took their positions. The referee waved his hand, signaling the start of the match. That foolish guy gleefully activated the fire on his spear, believing he had hit the jackpot because his opponent couldn't use mana. He aimed straight for Chan's face and charged forward. The spearhead lunged forward, boldly declared that he was the undefeated spear user in the academy. Chan felt a bit bored. He planted his spear into the arena floor. In a flash, Chan disappeared, leaving the blonde guy completely stunned. Chan suddenly appeared behind him, not forgetting to mock his opponent's clumsiness. Then he circled to the front and threw a punch into the blonde guy's stomach. Another uppercut landed on his chin. He lost a tooth. Chan was a bit surprised that the guy didn't get up. There was no way a hunter candidate could be this weak. Chan believed the guy was just a beginner. In the stands, Se-eun was completely surprised. She immediately checked Chan's background, finding he was just an ordinary porter. Her assistant, sweating profusely, said that he didn't even have a trace of mana in him. This was extremely absurd considering the power of his close combat attacks. The guy was absolutely right, and was immediately rewarded with candy. Se-eun believed that this guy had intentionally not accumulated any mana. Meanwhile, in the arena, Chan was in an awkward position. He wasn't used to taking down someone who was just sitting still. Then he raised his fist, promising it wouldn't hurt. The blonde guy didn't even have time to look, had passed out, and the winner is Chan Sok. Everyone started chattering amongst themselves. A glint of greed appeared in Se-eun's eyes. She decided she wanted to see what his real skills were like, so she would go to see the organizers. As for Chan Sok, he continued to defeat many other opponents, and began to wonder if these rookies were too weak by standard. The more he fought, the more Chan doubted the hunter training system in this world, because he couldn't find a single decent opponent. In the final match, Chan Sok's opponent was Sang-ah, the one Se-eun's group had mentioned for her electrical abilities. Chan quickly recognized her, because of her ability to absorb all of her opponent's mana. Sang-ah bluntly declared that Chan Sok's luck ended here. Then she drew her sword, believing Chan had no unique skills and that she would not hold back. Hearing this, he felt a bit offended, but still didn't want to use that flame on her. It was lethal, no joke. Then, in an instant, a current of electricity flashed from Sang-ah's blade. The signal to fight was given. Sang-ah dashed forward like a flash of lightning. Her horizontal slash cut through the air, as Chan Sok had arched his body up into the air. In disbelief, her eyes widened with doubt. The hero marveled that this girl was truly formidable, knowing how to combine electrical energy, turn it into magnetism, and then use it to draw her sword, making her striking speed like a railgun. Unfortunately, she was still lacking one thing. She was too focused on her attack speed. She created a magnetic rail in midair, but this very rail was too obvious, allowing her opponent to easily predict the attack's direction and dodge it. Humiliated in the arena, Sang-ah got angry, telling him not to be so smug. Then she decided to use electricity for a long-range attack. Chan dodged it even more easily this time, not forgetting to call her an idiot. This made Sang-ah lose her composure even more. She used her mana recklessly. This also meant she was struggling to gather mana. Soon, Sang-ah's body would collapse. In the blink of an eye, Chan closed in. He told her to raise her left hand if it hurt. Then the first punch landed on her stomach. The pain was excruciating. It was followed by dozens of lightning-fast strikes, with his fists, and then his kicks. Sang-ah was resilient, officially unable to fight. The audience was horrified to see a nameless guy crush the top student of the Hunter Academy. No one knew where this monster came from. Chan himself rated Sang-ah quite highly. The girl was more skilled than the rest, but she still relied too much on mana, making her easy to be taken down in a single blow. Suddenly Chan heard a sound from behind. Could it be that she wanted to continue the fight? No, it was Sang-ah raising her left hand. Haha. Turns out she still felt pain and listened to Chan Sok's advice. It seemed like the competition would end soon. Unexpectedly, new information reached the referee, so he decided to make an announcement that the winner, Yu Chan Sok, should rest, because he would be receiving another special match. The two guys from the Janabai Guild smelled something fishy and immediately knew Se-eun was up to something. Seeing the audience whispering, Chan guessed that the opponent he had to face must be a veteran hunter. Could it be Se-eun, just like his experience in the old world? Sure enough, a female voice then rang out. She declared that she wanted to verify his skills. Her weapon was a greatsword as large as a person. Then Se-eun asked Chan Sok if he wanted to fight her. Our hero broke out in a sweat. After all, she was ranked 10th in the world. Moreover, looking at her aura and demeanor, Chan knew she was a real pro. Even with a spear, he wasn't sure he could do anything to her, but he still wanted to give it a try. The referee was surprised because they wanted to fight right away. Chan felt he still had plenty of energy, and Se-eun was eager to test the young guy. Actually, Chan Sok just wanted to maintain the best record possible, and while fighting a rank 10 hunter was risky, he was also a perfect opponent. Chan asked if his value would increase. Before everyone could even be surprised, the two of them had already charged at each other. The slash from the greatsword was blocked by Chan, but the force of the blow was immense. He couldn't believe that sword swing came from a woman. After the clash of weapons, both quickly jumped back to reassess the situation. Chan Sok noticed his speed had been significantly reduced compared to the beginning, and his opponent was not without weaknesses, but his body had almost reached its limit. Se-eun, on the other hand, expected more from him. She charged forward once again. Chan Sok had been a bit careless. In this situation, he had no choice but to use his unique skill. Unfortunately, Se-eun was too fast. A sword strike came down right where Chan was standing. That almost ended the match. Se-eun now confirmed that the guy had exceeded her expectations. She had put enough force into that last attack to make it impossible for him to dodge. The strange thing was his body was emitting a gloomy aura, which made her curious enough to ask what it was. The Paradox Flame, a special skill that he trusted the most. A type of flame that doesn't burn physical matter, which is why his clothes were still intact. It burns the target's ego, memories, and soul. Unfortunately, with his current abilities, he couldn't fully utilize its functions. But there was one thing he could still burn. Se-eun realized the guy had gotten faster, because the thing he was burning was fatigue. She was surprised because he recovered so quickly. His stamina was so abundant that he could launch attacks from all directions. She noticed the mana concentration in the air was constantly fluctuating, while the arena remained unchanged. It turned out this flame released mana during the burning process. First, he used mana to activate the Paradox Flame, and then the flame, while burning fatigue, released mana. That was the endless loop. It was Se-eun's turn to counterattack. A powerful slash down onto the ground. Se-eun asked Chan Sok if he intended to continue. Of course, the guy had no reason not to continue, and cheekily asked her if she liked stubborn guys like him. Seeing his face, Se-eun got angry, declaring that she hated brats like him. But of course his energy was not endless. This flame had its limits. Once everything that could be burned was gone. That was when the flame disappeared. After a battle that lasted for over 4 hours, Chan Sok began to beg for his life. Lee Se-eun was the victor. A giant lollipop pulled from inside her top immediately made the two assistants drool. She would reward this stubborn warrior with the lollipop, along with a name card. On it were her contact details, and told him to contact her later. Without hesitation, Chan immediately took a bite of the lollipop. He realized the smartphone also contained a hunter's license, along with many other functions, making it far different from his previous era. Then, a large man suddenly appeared before him, praising him for his great performance. He also gave him a name card, introducing himself as a member of the Tieback Guild, and promised that if he joined his party for grinding, Chan Sok was guaranteed to shine. So he had 2 offers. Anyway, he needed to think it over, but this tall guy wanted him to make a decision right away. He even placed his shovel-like hand on his shoulder, then warned him threateningly that he should think it through carefully. Damn it. This guy was out, so only Se-eun was left, and they decided to meet. The meeting place was a bar called The Hut. Here it is. After arriving at the bar, Se-eun called out to him, "This cafe's name is really misleading. By the way, he also mentioned being recruited by a group with a big guy." As soon as he said that, she immediately knew the guy was Seong Hyeon from the Tieback Guild. It was also because that guy had his eyes on him that other guilds didn't dare to approach him anymore. Chan Sok asked if the Janabai Guild was the same. Se-eun said that she wasn't interested in recruiting him. Instead, she wanted him to work as a freelancer. According to her, the other guild would recruit him starting from a low-level position. Chan didn't quite understand. She explained that the ranks for hunters in a guild are usually divided into 3 levels: junior, senior, and partner. The junior position could also be considered an employee position. Partners get to share the profits from the guild, just like in a law firm. So Se-eun told him that he didn't need to go through the junior or senior positions to become a hunter partner. Chan Sok understood immediately. He just needed to become famous and have achievements, and they would take notice of him. That was right, and he was rewarded with candy again. But now that he was all alone, it was very difficult to get a proper position. Se-eun said she would help him, and the reason she was helping him was, she was making a seed investment, so that later, when he became strong enough, he would remember Janabai as a debt of gratitude. Then she handed him a file and told him to take a look. Inside was a request from Incheon City. On an island, an erosion crack had appeared 2 years ago, but the hunters had failed to clear it. His mission was not to clear that crack, but to check if there were any other cracks. The mission would start in a month, and he would receive a 5 million won advance. Upon success, he would receive the full 15 million. Chan Sok immediately complained that the pay was a bit low. Se-eun just smiled and said that if he wanted more money, he needed to become more famous and stronger. Chan Sok's face fell. Scene change. In the limousine, Se-eun reported to her boss about Chan Sok's case, a civilian who became a champion. The boss simply commented, "Not bad." She had to remind him that the word was an understatement, as the guy had fought her for over 4 hours. The boss believed it was only because she went easy on him. A seasoned warrior like Se-eun had initially intended to just play around a bit, but unexpectedly, the fight dragged on for 4 hours. She believed it was hard to meet someone as monstrous as him. On that island, the top hunters were being gathered. Se-eun's boss was still suspicious of the new warrior, Chan Sok, wondering if he was skilled enough for actual combat alongside the veteran hunters. Se-eun reassured her boss that she had made careful arrangements. He asked if she was referring to Sang-ah. The boss then asked her what she thought would happen if that kid reached the same level as her. The truth hurts. Se-eun believed that if he reached that level. 1 month ago, this delivery guy really had it rough. He had to deliver an incredibly heavy item. The recipient was none other than Chan Sok. He opens the lid. It was an iron spear, nearly 2 meters long, and this is a rapid mana replenishing elixir. The normal way of using mana is similar to drinking water from a water purifier. One controls the mana in the air, stores it in the body, and uses it when needed. This elixir allows one to perform that process in a short amount of time. Although he uses mana differently from others, he skips the storing process and absorbs it directly, but his method has the advantage of being almost limitless. Furthermore, during the absorption and release process, the mana channels through which the mana passes will gradually be strengthened, allowing for the use of more mana. The only drawback is that until the mana channels develop, the amount of mana he can handle is small, making it difficult to generate a strong burst of energy in a short time. Therefore, the safest bet is to buy some elixirs in advance, just in case. For this 1 month, he will train to strengthen his mana channels as much as possible. At Gyeodonggu Island, a long line of hunters has arrived. Each person just needs to present their QR code. The manager will verify their identities and assign them to appropriate teams. Chan Sok was assigned to Team 8. He planned to lie low like a background character. Then suddenly, someone recognized him. It was Sang-ah, the girl with the electric sword. Chan couldn't help but wonder why her hair looked so messy, only to learn it was previously just an electromagnetic effect. She reminded him to try and cooperate to complete the mission, but the arrogant Chan didn't want to carry these noobs, so he claimed his shoulder was feeling a bit off. Yet Sang-ah actually believed him, showering him with concerned questions and care. What a serious girl. Then, a guild member signaled for everyone to gather. Team 8 now had all its members. Since there were people participating for the first time, the manager would provide some extra explanation. Corrosion fissures are classified into Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, and Unclassified. The closer a fissure is to level 1, the more dangerous it is. Additionally, the first corrosion fissure to appear in a specific area is given the designation Alpha. Currently, the location of the Alpha corrosion fissure on Gyeodongdu Island is the church in northern Insa-ri, although it is still an unclassified corrosion fissure, considering the characteristic of corrosion fissures growing stronger over time. The manager instructed them not to approach the Alpha fissure, but to instead patrol and destroy any other fissures that appeared. The members broke into a sweat, as they were just rookies. Finally, the boat arrived. Some people were worried about their lives. To Chan-sok, they were just overreacting. The guild made an announcement that if there were any difficulties, they could report to the offshore control room. Chan's team began planning. Chan-sok then opened his phone and showed them the base location he had chosen, which was a temple. Of course, the other two guys didn't listen to him, thinking he was just a newbie and wondering what reason there was to go to Wagiza Temple. He said, "From Wagiza Temple, Yupne-ri can be seen, and from the peak of Wagyesan Mountain, one can look straight out to Gyeodong Mayan. The old temple building is still there, so we can also use it for lodging. Isn't it obvious?" And so the argument broke out again. The two guys simply didn't want to listen to a rookie. Chan-sok didn't know what to do either. Idiots are everywhere. So they split up. Unexpectedly, the blonde-haired guy also followed Chan-sok. His name was Min-tae. It turned out this Min-tae guy was worried about the two newbies, so he went with them. At least Chan-sok saw one valuable person in the group. Suddenly, he signaled to stop. Then he told everyone to be quiet and observe. Min-tae peeked his head out. Sure enough, he saw a group of goblins. The number was not small, at least 50 of them, so Min-tae wanted to take another route. The hero just told him to calm down and asked what his unique skill was. It was clear that Chan-sok wanted to fight this monster horde. Although it sounded risky, Chan-sok's eyes were very determined. Min-tae then said that his skill was fire, and he could shoot fireballs. Chan immediately asked Min-tae to launch a preemptive strike. Sang-ha also wanted to join in. Min-tae thought it was too reckless, even like a death wish, because the other two were on their first mission. They should contact other hunters instead, but Chan-sok stated bluntly that other hunters wouldn't make it in time. Unlike them, who started directly from Wagiza Temple, the other hunters were currently searching along the coast. What Chan-sok said made sense. There was no other way but to deal with the goblins themselves, with a swift and surprise attack. The plan was for Min-tae to attack the center with fireballs, while Chan-sok would lock down their flank. The tasks were assigned specifically to each person quickly and clearly, making Min-tae feel like he was working with a veteran hunter. The plan begins. Min-tae rushes out from his hiding spot and launches an attack. The fireball explodes right in the center of the goblin group's formation. A few that couldn't dodge in time were burned to a crisp. Now Chan-sok will buy time for Min-tae to reload. Min-tae's trust in the nameless leader grew even stronger. The hero charges forward, wielding his spear like an artist, cutting down 5 to 6 goblins in a single sweep. The goblins near Min-tae were cleared out first, but a few still slipped through the defense line. That's when the second line of defense comes into play. Sang-ha will take care of the ones that rush forward. By now, the second shot was ready. He fires directly at the monsters. An area of effect attack is truly effective. After the second shot, the goblins were completely wiped out. Chan-sok praises his teammate for doing a good job. Suddenly, with a cold expression, Mint raises a gun and points it at him. Then Minja laughed and asked Chan-sok if he could move aside, almost making Chan piss himself. He used a gun. He implanted a chip into the corpse on the ground, so scrap dealers would come to collect it after the mission was done. It turned out to be a very convenient service for cleaning up and looting whatever was left on the battlefield. By simply attaching this chip to a monster's corpse, they would bring vehicles to collect them. Based on the value of the collected items, the hunter would receive a corresponding profit after all fees were deducted. Of course, one had to find a reputable scrap collector. While they were talking, a monster silently rushed in, attempting to ambush them. Luckily, Chan-sok reacted in time and saved Minye. They narrowly escaped death. Minye seemed shaken, not knowing what the hell had just attacked. He only saw the beast grinning widely. It felt like it was a mid-level boss with red wings on its back. Chan-sok guessed that this monster is the leader of the previous mob. This meant it was much more dangerous. He suggested his teammates leave it for him to handle. The other two were reluctant. They planned to cooperate with Chan-sok to stall for time and then retreat, but Chan-sok was very resolute. He warned them they might go home in body bags if they were stubborn. Besides, the other two would only drag him down. At least he could fight this beast for as long as he wanted, rather than having to fight while protecting his teammates. After that, the other two just stood by and watched. It seemed like Chan-Sok was being overwhelmed, but in reality, he hadn't been hit at all. Sang-ah watched carefully. She realized Chan-Sok was constantly engaging the monster head-on, dodging and counter-attacking. Every time he swung his spear, black flames trailed the spearhead. Meanwhile, the monster was gradually being slowed down by the flames. It looked like he was just holding on, but in fact, this freak was toying with the boss. Sang-ah had a feeling that this guy was no newbie. The fight was still ongoing. Chan stepped back. He raised the spear. Everyone didn't understand his intention yet. They only saw that the monster had gotten too close. But this was as far as it could go. Then the boss collapsed. The spear had pierced through its head. He just didn't expect this boss to be so durable. It was a bit beyond his imagination. The other two were bewildered. What newbie? What rookie? Chan-Sok called out to Minye. He asked him if it wasn't a bit strange for this monster to appear on the island. According to Minye, this monster should only appear in a grade 3 zone. It could be deduced that the Alpha Corrosion Zone had been upgraded to grade 3. Sang-ah didn't understand either, so Chan-Sok could only tell her to think it over carefully. The difference between an unranked Corrosion Zone and a grade 3 one is huge, because the chances of a hunter returning alive from a grade 3 were extremely low. Minye wanted everyone to go and warn the other hunters, but Chan only replied coldly that there were things he couldn't take on all by himself, and their mission was also very clear, not to meddle in others' affairs. Sang-ah then asked what he would do if he himself were in that situation. She was just hoping to get Chan's sympathy and that he would agree to help others. But being pragmatic and old enough to understand it, Chan, with a stone-cold face, said that he didn't understand how others felt. He only cared about the results. When facing death, no matter how one feels, the result is still the same, death. Therefore, Chan-Sok advised Sang-ah to drop that thought. Then they arrived at the temple. The place was clean, with no traces of monsters, but it was too dark for them to get a closer look. Fortunately, they could see other hunter groups from this location, but that same light also put those hunters in danger. If they encountered weak monsters, it would be fine, but if they were unlucky enough to run into a boss, they would be in trouble. So, Chan-Sok decided to send a message to the hunter group, warning that there was a possibility the Alpha Erosion Zone had upgraded to grade 3. With the job done, the three of them sat and talked. Minye said that if they could just destroy the core of the erosion zone, the monsters would disappear. So that was it. It sounded quite simple. He waited for the two members to fall fast asleep. He quietly placed an item on the ground. It was a monster detection radar. If any appeared, the radar would alert and wake them up. Meanwhile, Chan-Sok would go alone to find out what exactly the Alpha Erosion Zone was. Suddenly, he had to stop. Clearly, nothing was ever that easy. He summoned the paradoxical flame. The beast blocking his path this time was quite large. Meanwhile, in the Hunter Association's offshore control room, they detected that Team 5's signal had just been lost. Previously, they had received information that one member of this team had died. The commander urgently requested nearby hunter teams to provide support. Then, they were surprised to find someone heading straight for the Alpha Zone. They wondered who could be so reckless, walking straight to their death. That person was none other than Chan-Sok. The commander ordered a connection to Chan's device to confirm if he was alive or dead. It should be noted that an erosion zone upgrading itself was unprecedented. Meanwhile, Chan-Sok was running for his life. This beast was too fast. Just then, they successfully connected to him. On the radio, they could hear him cursing out the people there like he was rapping. In short, the good news was that he was still alive. He had to run because his paradox flame wasn't enough to kill this monster. It needed time to gradually weaken it. It was still chasing him too closely. He had overused his mana previously. Now, he needed to find a place to gather more mana. Suddenly, he saw something up ahead. There was an energy hole. Without hesitation, he charged straight into it. Chan-Sok believed this was still better than racing that mad beast. Besides, he also wanted to check a few things. The people in the control room were speechless, because the place he had charged into was the Alpha Zone. It was cleaner inside than he had imagined. He was just curious what the other erosion zones would look like. What about grade 1 and grade 2? There was the sound of footsteps. The tour is over. The beast that had been following him appeared again. It was time to end this wretched bond. The beast opened its mouth and let out a roar. Meanwhile, Chan quietly activated the paradox flame. This thing could stick to any object, even allies. That's why he wanted to fight alone to mitigate that drawback. The tip of the spear touches the monster and flames burst out. The beast roars in pain. He takes this opportunity to gather mana from the surrounding space, then absorbs it into his body. The mana quickly spreads throughout his body, expanding and further strengthening the mana channels within him. What a convenient method. The beast howls in increasing pain. The sound echoes all around. Chan-sok had figured out the monster's trick. It was calling for reinforcements. How pathetic. Just attacking with brute force is pointless. With that, Chan-sok creates a vast area of black flames engulfing the horde of monsters. Although he was stronger than when he started, Chan knew he couldn't keep fighting like this forever. He needed to find the core of the erosion zone, and according to Minye, that core must be the strongest monster. Suddenly, an attack comes. It was as fast as a shadow, but Chan-sok was fast enough to get away. He didn't expect to encounter a monster this intelligent and capable of speech. It knew to wait for the black flames to die down before attacking. If he wasn't mistaken, this was the core of this erosion zone. He took a stance, wanting to test his current abilities with the next attack. Chan charged forward. The spearhead tore through the air. As expected, the monster managed to block it, but right where it blocked, its weapon cracked. That was a twin afterimage strike. The monster was stunned. A blue streak of light formed along his attack path, and that streak perfectly copied the first strike, repeating it 4 times. The monster used its bare hands to counterattack. Chan's spearhead arrived just in time. The monster jumps up to dodge. It knew the next attack was coming. A phantom spear is unleashed. It was time to end this. The spear thrusts, like flashes of lightning, no longer followed any pattern. All that could be seen was the monster's body, riddled with holes like a honeycomb. Then, it vanished into the void forever. He received something in his hand, a purple box. Meanwhile, outside, the command center was in utter chaos. The erosion zone was expanding from the center, putting the hunters in more danger than ever. The signal from Team 9 had just disappeared. The commander was growing increasingly desperate. Perhaps the mission would soon end in failure. All the hunters would be slaughtered. Suddenly, someone came with a report that there was a message from Hunter Chan-sok. He reported that he had cleared the Alpha erosion zone. At the same time, the control team also saw that this area had disappeared, along with the monsters there. It really was a miracle. In the middle of the night, Chan-sok sat and watched the sky turn clear again. At Team 8's location, a flash of light tore through the horde of monsters. It was Sang-ah. She fought until her hands grew weary. For some reason, the horde of monsters kept growing, and Chan-sok had disappeared. Behind her was Minye. Despair began to set in, wondering if they would make it home alive. He had clearly reached his limit, drool spilling from his mouth. Sang-ah wasn't in better shape. She had a scratch on her left thigh, but the monsters only grew more ferocious. They kept rushing forward in groups. Minye, on his end, could hardly cover for her. Sang-ah closed her eyes, awaiting death, but suddenly the monsters dissolved into dust and smoke. At the hunter's assembly point, Chan-sok knew that the overall casualties of this operation were significant. The 2 guys who had rejected him earlier were battered and surprised to hear his voice. This rookie was the one who single-handedly cleared the core of the Grade 3 erosion zone. Quickly, he found his 2 teammates. Minye was shocked when he read the message. Sang-ah asked him why he went to clear the core alone, but because he had acted so cold before, Chan-sok couldn't admit that he was worried about the other hunters. Suddenly, someone came looking for him. It was a branch manager named Jung Tae. He realized the guy was the one who had called him here. Then he was sent to meet someone. Chan-sok would also take this opportunity to renegotiate the price for completing the mission beyond expectations. After that, a guy in black came to greet him. He was Lee Pilge. He would take him to meet the mayor. Apparently, the mayor had been very worried about this mission. Therefore, after hearing the news from the hunter, the mayor canceled all his other meetings to meet Chan-sok privately. He didn't expect to be held in such high regard. It seems that a solo hunter taking down a Grade 3 erosion zone was something incredibly impressive. The mayor introduced himself and invited him to have some coffee, then praised Chan-sok's contributions to the nation. He continued, "As the mayor of Incheon, Gyeodong Island is truly a double-edged sword. We need to handle it, but with a limited budget, hiring expensive guilds is impossible." Chan-sok immediately mentioned that the remuneration they received was a bit low. The mayor also knew this was Chan's first mission. Then he slammed the table in astonishment, saying that perhaps this was a source of pride, because Incheon would be the starting place of an extraordinary hunter. Just that alone made Chan-sok almost choke on his coffee. The mayor, meanwhile, went on and on about the potential of Incheon City. It seemed he deeply loved this land, and he also guaranteed Chan-sok's path as a hunter if he developed here. These boring words made him recall. When he was in the car with that commander, the man asked about his purpose in this profession. If there's a clogged toilet overflowing with filth, someone has to wade into that sewage and unclog it. The commander heard this, and immediately thought of other famous hunters, those who had been blinded by advertising money. As a result, they forgot the noble duty of this profession. In a way, it was only natural. Just beyond the ceasefire line, eroded zones teeming with menacing monsters stretched out, and the commander only hoped that he could preserve hope for humanity. However, Chan Sok had lived long enough to understand, and to stay firm in his purpose. The negotiation continued. Benefits always come with obligations. So Chan Sok asked him directly if this was to help him increase his chances of re-election. The mayor's face turned pale. His true intentions exposed, the mayor could only clear his throat. According to the information he had, the mayor's term would end next year, and re-election would be quite difficult due to his low approval ratings. The mayor reminded him that to operate, he needed permission from the city hall. That was true. This fat man only wanted to build his reputation on the success of others. Then he tried to entice him by offering him a cut of the advertising money. Just as the commander had said, this annoyed Chan Sok, making him put his coffee cup down on the table. He didn't want to be treated so cheaply. The pragmatic mayor was stunned. Chan Sok just wanted to continue hunting. He could easily earn everything the man had promised him. All other options were worthless. Chan stood up. He thanked him for the delicious coffee and left. Outside it was still raining. Two shady-looking guys were taking shelter under a bridge. The guy in the hoodie was disappointed that the test in Gyeodong-do had failed, but there was some good news. Apparently, they had watched the combat videos from the competition, and they had discovered Chan Sok. The guy smirked sinisterly. They would surely find their hero soon, and he would meet his end.